Good afternoon, President and members of the Council. My name is Natasha Villa. I'm here on behalf of the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association. We represent the maritime industry on the U.S. West Coast. I'm also here on behalf of 57 organization and stakeholder coalition that sent a letter to this Council in opposition to the charter amendments impacting the Port of Los Angeles, citing potential impacts on port governance, investment, and economic competitiveness. We have serious concerns about embedding port operational mandates into the city charter. These proposals have not gone through the level of public review and stakeholder engagement that changes of this magnitude require. The Rules Committee concluded that additional analysis is needed, referring to these issues to the Ad Hoc Committee on Charter Reform rather than advancing them as amendments. We respectfully urge the Council to allow the Ad Hoc Committee to complete this work and keep the port-related provisions out of the 2026 Charter Reform Package. Thank you for your time today.
Ranked choice voting has been well documented all around the country in many cities, many states, many elections. We know it works. We know it will be valuable here in the city of Los Angeles, and I encourage all members of City Council to vote in opposition of the recommendation to hold and to move immediately to place ranked choice voting on the ballot for voters in November. Furthermore, we know that a single council seat size of over 250,000 people is just too much. We need to double the size of the city council so that you guys can divide your own workload. We need to make it easier for people, citizens, to get in touch with their representatives and for representatives to holistically understand the needs of the people in their community. Finally, empower yourselves. Give yourself the ability to write laws that affect the Los Angeles Police Department. Los Angeles is unique in its inability to do this, and it's time to close that loophole. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to speak to item 67. My name is Charlie Mims, and
you have 1 minute.
There are three issues I want to speak to. One is two have to do with the personnel recommendations. One is the number of exemptions recommended for the Department of Airports. They're recommending 50 exemptions, and they're less than a third the size of the Department of Water and Power. That's 40 exemptions. We think that's just too many for a mid-sized department like the Department of Airports. The other issue is the recommendation from personnel that the promotional test and open test be allowed to be merged. It's a very general statement. If they were to tighten that up so it was entering level positions they're talking about, we may not have an exception to that, but they're talking about mid-level management positions that instead of exempting them, they would be allowed to be on an open list and then merge with a promotional and wind up getting a free exemption.
Good afternoon, Council President. My name is Lori Candinas. I'm with AFSCME District Council 36. I rise today to ask you to vote no on all the personnel changes that are coming before you. The city has not met and conferred with us in good faith. This process has been rushed, and the crux of civil service is on the line here. And you need to stand for civil service, and you need to stand with the workers in this city who make it happen.
My name is Steve Kofroth. I am the chair of the LA City Coalition of Unions. We represent the vast majority of civilian workers, the people who will be impacted by the changes you are considering today. We sent your offices a letter this morning, so I want to save time here. If you have not seen that letter, please have your staff come find me. We're here to stay. We have attempted to use the process as it's intended, but the city has rushed it and prematurely declared a last, best, and final offer. This is not how bargaining in good faith works. We want you to understand that our coalition has been at the table solving serious problems with the city, and this is not the way to take the approach on this. These changes make serious changes to the rights, privileges, and understandings of how the civil system works, and our members care passionately about this. You want to make sure that you're supporting your workforce. Thank you.
Next speaker. Okay, so before we begin, hold on. So there are a lot of people here. As the council president said, we did take multiple hours of public comment during the regular meeting. We would like to fit in as many people as we can during this time. You are welcome to applause. You are welcome to boo, but we would appreciate that if you hold it to a minimum and in between the speakers so we can maximize the amount of time we hear from members of the public. Good afternoon. Which items would you like to speak to?
67.
Okay, so you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Wiltfong, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Supply Chain Federation, which represents businesses and stakeholders throughout the goods movement and logistics industry. I'm also here on behalf of the Los Angeles County Business Federation, also BizFed, also known as BizFed. Our members depend on a reliable, efficient, and competitive port of Los Angeles. The port is a critical gateway for national and international commerce that supports jobs, businesses, and consumers throughout California and the United States. We are concerned about efforts to add port-specific operational mandates to the city charter. These proposals could create additional uncertainty for businesses making long-term investment decisions and could slow the delivery of infrastructure and other projects needed to keep cargo moving efficiently through Los Angeles. It is also important to recognize that the chief legislative analyst did not recommend these provisions for inclusion in the charter, and that the Rules Committee similarly concluded that additional review is warranted and referred the matter to the Ad Hoc Committee on Charter Reform for further study. We respectfully urge the Council to allow the Ad Hoc Committee to complete its review and not add these amendments to the charter. Thank you.
Hi there. On your way back from the grocery shopping, if you could sign here for ranked choice voting and expanding city council, thank you. Oh, hey council, I just want to show you guys what it looks like if we have to delay the charter reform recommendations and put these on the ballot ourselves and do our job for you. Oh, hey, thanks for coming back. Okay, so city council did table putting ranked choice voting and expanding city council on the ballot when there was 1.5 years of discussions as well as 2 subcommittees for further studies. And when it came time to let you vote, these council members decided not to, because remember, I have gotten 15,000 signatures and they asked why, and you guys have collected signatures too. So, by the way, every single person that comes to public comment, they represent thousands of voters out there. And reality is they represent you. But it doesn't have to be this way. With ranked choice voting, you have the chance to vote yes and not listen to the recommendations, because this is what I want to see. Remember, we are lifelong Angelinos, and we never forget.
Hi, good afternoon, City Council members. I'm Alex Freeman and a member of the resident of the greater LA area. I wanted to talk about the financial parts of RCV because those are the parts that you are sending for further study. First off, RCV is primarily a one-time cost as far as the county is concerned. It is a software package that they need to implement as soon as a city expresses interest in it. And as a city with the same namesake, you're the city which can have the most influence. But also, let's talk about the other financial impact on you. As a city, once RCV is implemented, you don't need to be in 2 elections anymore. You can just be in 1. That saves you time for fundraising. It saves the amount of money you need to do on fundraising. It allows you to spend more time on what you want to do in the city council, in the city, with your families, anywhere. So consider that when you're looking at, please move RCV onto the 26 ballot so that the people can decide what they would like. Thank you.
Ranked choice voting is a simple system. Expanding city council is a simple idea. With these 2 in combination, we could incentivize people to want to take part, local people to vote and engage in these institutions and the systems that will make a difference. They can talk about policy that actually matters to them personally instead of catering to the partisans of the world. Under proportional RCV, it's multi-winner. Instead of 15 single districts, we can combine them. And with increased members, we proportionally allocate our representation based on people's true preferences instead of single voting, which is it's partisan in nature, and it incentivizes people to vote based on who's popular instead of who they truly like, based on policy.
Good afternoon, council members. I stood before you earlier today. My name is Ariel Moore. I'm the Deputy Director of Policy at the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. And I want to ask you a simple but pertinent question. Whose side are you on? As been discussed right now, the bean confer process has not been fair. It's been rushed. It does not look like actual negotiations. What happened was they were simply presented a best, final, and last after only 4 sessions. As you know, that's unacceptable. Labor is the backbone of this city, and our city workers deserve not only more respect, but they should be treated with the dignity in which they serve all of us. I expect, as do they, that this process will be made right and fair. They'll have an opportunity to discuss negotiations and reach terms and conditions of their employment that represent the type of work that they provided for us, some for many, many years. It's up to you to show whose side you're on, labor or authoritarianism. Thank you.
1 minute, go ahead.
Marlene Fonseca, EAA Union, on behalf of 6,000 city employees, we ask that you vote no on all the personnel recommendations. They've had 2 years to negotiate this with us. If you look at Council File 23-10-27, in 2024, you'll see almost the same exact proposals, yet they waited 2 years. We've had 2 last best final offers within the last few days. One was received yesterday with a deadline of 10 a.m. today, the same time you're gonna be considering these proposals. That's unacceptable. This is not good faith bargaining. We're not done. We're not in impasse. We too have ideas to vet. I have 24 years of city experience, 11 in the city and 13 representing city employees. I know there's challenges in employment, but we can't do it like this. There's no labor organization here advocating for these changes, and that's not because we don't believe changes need to be made. It's because it hasn't been collaborative. Do it right, push these to 2028, and let us continue bargaining.
So, this is, I guess, the last chance. Hopefully, you'll actually preserve some of the reforms that people fought for over a year at the Charter Reform Commission. And it was really difficult to actually get them to agree to anything in the first place. So the fact that they put out a report suggesting all these great reforms is such a really good, that how much people want this kind of stuff. But you don't want it, so you're trying to now gut it, which was basically the whole obvious end point here, was that you were clearly not actually in support of it, and you just wanted to basically go through a whole charter reform process and then gut everything. People want ranked choice voting. They want, you know, expansion of council. They want reform to at least make it possible to hold the LAPD more accountable, things like that. And you want to gut it. Let's hear from everyone today. There's a lot of people who've been waiting hours to speak.
One housekeeping thing, Grote, on this personnel issue and how insulting it is that you've handled this. There's a CAO report that was posted, and it's miscropped. So a bunch of the language on 3 of the pages is cut off. So please get that fixed. This has all just been a big joke of a process, down to the end where we get the committee report, the CLA report dropped on us this morning. You know, before the Fed tapes, there was one person on this council who supported expanding this body, Councilmember Rahman. Over the next 2 cycles, we worked to make sure y'all got on the record. And we had 9 people elected to this office, this body, who campaigned and said, I support this. Where are you now? Where are you now? This is so insulting. Lastly, I do want to just note there are a few poison pills in here that are really bad. And you have a couple weeks to fix them, maybe amend them, but you're going to face hell.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Jahone E., coming from the San Fernando Valley. I'm here with CalRCV. We're big supporters of ranked choice voting. I've expressed this at the Rules Committee, and I've expressed this at the Charter Reform Committee. But, you know, I'm a little disappointed with how this whole process has happened. I mean, I'm speaking to you all, and no, it seems like no one's paying attention. So if you could please give me 30 seconds of your time. We did wait like 4 hours to speak. You know, ranked choice voting, it helps save the city money. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Part of the agendas, I think in the last one it said that LA may have to run its own elections. No one ever advocated for that. That was never part of the recommendation from the charter reform. So I'm not even sure why that's there. It feels misleading to you all, because I'm sure you all don't want to pony up more money to spend on something else. So please have a constructive conversation about ranked choice voting. It hasn't happened, and it's kind of sad to say that y'all are barely talking about this now. And you're supposed to be representatives. Councilmember Lee, thank you so much for your questions, but I've only heard from them.
Thank you. Speaker, your time has expired.
Speaking on item 67. Good afternoon, council members. I'm Ross Weisschoffer, member of the Fair Rep LA Coalition. And at this final council meeting on charter reform before November, we don't need further study. We need further courage from our electeds. And council needs to recognize the cost of inaction. As someone who spent hours over the past year creating over 35 custom ads for these charter reform meetings, begging people to engage in the process, ask yourselves, why should Angelenos get engaged in yet another process after every government structure reform and almost all of the ethics reforms have been sent to study purgatory, including a ban on using campaign funds to pay for ethics fines being shelved at the last minute by a council member with tens of thousands of dollars in ethics fines? Ask yourself, who bears the cost? And speaking now on item 74 on possible voting reforms to improve city elections. LA's young people bear the cost, especially when they are denied the right to vote. When our most disadvantaged LAUSD schools struggle to find civic opportunities for students, when they grapple with a widening budget deficit, when they are fighting against their students losing hope in a better future, the time to empower our young people with the right to vote is not someday. It's now. And at Monday's Rules Committee meeting, we heard some doubts that we should expand voter eligibility by allowing council to implement that reform via ordinance. I remind council members it is still possible to say in the charter that any ordinance once passed cannot be reversed for implementation. And there's time to finesse that language and put lowering the voting age for LAUSD on the November ballot. But there is no time for empty promises to our LAUSD students and Angelenos about a future that always comes tomorrow and always is scheduled for another committee.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison Riley. I'm a resident in Los Angeles, and I just want to say that we really need the City Council to adopt the recommended reforms from the Charter Commission, particularly the independent budget for the Controller's Office. Ranked choice voting is very important. Police oversight and accountability is something that we've been fighting for a long time and really need you to take seriously. Thank you.
Jason Greenwald, Friends of Griffith Park. I'm here on behalf of park advocates across the city. We want to say thank you. Thank you for recognizing how urgent it is to give our parks the funding they deserve and to put it in the city charter where it belongs to ensure that that funding will be there for future generations. Thank you, and one small ask. There is before you a provision to allow an escape clause of 30% in case of fiscal emergency. 30% is a big number, and it's an even bigger number in the first few years, which could actually leave RAP worse off than they are today. I know that none of you intend that, so if you can fix that technical issue with the escape clause, we will be even more grateful. Thank you.
I heard about the age of voting, that the age restriction should be lowered. I should agree to that. Since our boys, they go at war from the age of 18 already, I think they should vote for the age at 18. Another thing is that I just want to share anyway is that y'all right now cannot be seen on live with your government site or anything on site, that right now everybody could be seeing this whole live shit happening on Clown Soul because of this whole situation of y'all Los Angeles people is supposed to be helping the citizens here, and y'all failing it so fucking bad that we could see the live shit by another person under the name of Clown Soul instead of a council regular. We got no respect right here for you at all because of all the fails that y'all have been sitting up there. So literally hoping that there's some things gonna start changing before we start moving.
Hi. I support ranked choice voting because RCV is not a political issue, or it doesn't have to be. I understand that none of you today were elected under RCV, but think about why you decided to run for office in the first place. You wanted to move Los Angeles into the future, to make it a world-class city, and to adopt the newest technology. Ranked choice voting is simply a matter of using technology to improve the democratic process. So it doesn't have to be a political issue, And I encourage you to remember your mandate of making Los Angeles a world-class city. Please support ranked choice voting.
My name's David. I come from K-Town. I just wanted to talk about police reform. First of all, I just want to say the LAPD does a great job, very honorable job, but I do believe it's important that they be regulated, Giving the head of police the ability to remove police officers that are a problem is important. The LAPD gets 40% of the city budget, and they costed us, I think, about last year, about 150 mil in lawsuits. I mean, the first 10 minutes of this entire meeting was just the city talking about payouts that they're going to give out, literally 10 minutes of just L's. And that's the money the city's bleeding, and it's costing us a lot of money. So I think it's important, not just for the safety of the everyday civilian, but also for the budget and for the money of the everyday taxpayer, that we implement those things so that, cops that are not meeting the standard and are not honoring the, what it is to be an LAPD officer should be removed.
My name's Baba Akili, and I'm with Black Lives Matters, LA. Black Lives Matters, we took a simple statement, Black Lives Matters, and we turned it into a movement. A lot of that movement has centered around police transparency and accountability. We focus on that. The current process is convoluted, dark, complicated, and ineffective. It contributes to the distrust in our own community. That's why it needs to be reformed, that's why it needs to be simplified, and that's why it needs to be much more transparent. Right now, the stop and search recommendation is sitting on the desk and not being agreed to or implemented. We need much more transparency and accountability from the police. We need ranked choice voting. It makes sense. It allows us to make choices not between two evils, that's evil, and I don't want to have to choose between evil. So we need ranked choice voting. We need a larger city council so that your workload can be much more manageable and the people can have a real representation. And of course, we need worker protections. We cannot just throw things at workers and then say, take it. So we definitely have to have that. But more importantly, what we need is for you to trust the people. Put this before the people. Let us decide. Let us decide if we want more city council members. Let us decide about police accountability. Let us decide about ranked choice voting. Don't preempt us. I have testified at least 7 times before the Charter Reform Committee. We spent months debating, researching, learning about what needs to happen. Let's make it happen now. Don't be, I was going to say cowards, but I'm not going to say that. Be in favor of the people. Trust us. We know what we are doing. Put these initiatives on the ballot now in November. Don't hesitate. Don't postpone. Let the people speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
All right, that takes us beyond 30 minutes for this particular meeting. Today marks an important milestone in our more than a few dozen months process to reform the city charter. The decisions we make today will prepare language that we, in a week and a half or so, will have the option of moving forward to the November 2026 ballot. I first want to recognize Councilmember Krikorian, Council President Krikorian, who's here. He's retired from the council. Let's give him a big round of applause. He set up the first ad hoc charter committee. I think so. He's here to watch the results of his work. I sat on that committee with several other members of this council, including some of the folks who are with us today. So I want to thank everybody who participated in that process and Council President Krikorian for leading it, and for Councilmember Rahman for being the tip of the spear in that process. Well, we went around the city and had conversations. I will just say as a bit of testimony, after listening to hours and hours of public comment on a variety of topics, I did not see a more focused, disciplined, insightful, and engaging set of resident reaction, engagement to an issue as we saw going around the city talking about charter reform in every part of the city. And so that process, I think, helped us in a tremendous way. I think, right? 102 is on this page.
I was told to look at this one, and now he's showing me this one.
Yeah, I think that's the idea is the detail is in the other document, but the items
Correct.
are on this document. So 102.
So from page number 9.
Yeah. I think what's happening, Councilmember Padilla, he's not. You see that little tab that says note and file? He hasn't gotten to that. 102 is in that section, so he's dealing with what's above that, and then when we come to that, 102 is there. If that makes sense.
On my mind related to this one, because I think that it is, I personally feel it's important to go to war for green space, right? And like my mom has always said about me in Spanish, as she says in Spanish, Medla's always down to throw balazos in the balacera, right? I'm down to throw the bullets in this battle for green space. So I just want to say, Councilmember Rodriguez, I congratulate you for reaching this compromise so that members on this council who, with the original one, had we stayed with the original motion, were probably going to be perceived as anti-green space. So I applaud you for reaching a compromise that makes it look like not everyone on this council is anti-green space, as they probably would have appeared to be had we stayed with the original motion. So kudos to you for this compromise. I will be with you. But I will say, I just want to put it on everyone's mind that before we got to this 67H, everyone voted yes on item 14 on today's agenda. You voted to say that a council member should not be utilizing their discretionary funds to fund private security at one of our best taken care of, well-funded parks in the city. But we were curious as to whether we should start to put more money towards all of our potential parks. Without due respect, what about my parks? I'm over here working hard trying to figure out how I can find my discretionary to get lights at Sheldon Skate Park. I'm trying to figure out how to find discretionary funds to get the handball courts back at Delano, the bathrooms at Lake Balboa, right? But everyone here was okay with saying Council District 4 shouldn't have to pay for private security at Runyon Canyon, that Rec and Parks should soak it up. So I just kind of want that to be a preamble as we talk about and continue to talk about what it is we're going to do for the parks. So to all of the advocates that are here, like I said, today, this is a battle, but I'm going to be with you in the war. This is not our last election cycle ever. And to everyone, that is on this, good for you, but I'm not going to forget that it took a lot of work on Ms. Rodriguez's side to get to this so that you weren't perceived as anti-green space, but I know who you were. And it's incredibly, in my opinion, very hurtful. So we're in this for the long term.
Councilmember McCosker.
So again, when it comes to more parks, I am with you. I'm with all the advocates here, and I have been, and I have a record to stand on for that, that I'm very proud of my entire career in terms of working on issues of green space. But when it comes to budgeting and this kind of thing, I know too well what it means, and I urge a no vote on this and any other sort of ballot box budgeting that we want to move forward on any other topic.
14 ayes, 1 no.
And not just because, a few council members are upset that those safeguards are put in place that don't allow them to politicize this process. This is exactly the reason we have a Citizens Oversight committee. And the key question is not whether accountability is important, because of course it is. It's whether these proposed governance changes will actually improve accountability without creating unintended consequences that weakens the very oversight structure that the city has spent decades building. So colleagues, I warn you against this. Citizens oversight was put in place exactly to keep us out of politicizing the LAPD. So before we move on any of these sweeping changes, let's make sure, let's understand councils change. You may not like the direction another council has, and that's exactly the reason that we put in these safeguards and we have a Citizens Oversight Committee to make sure that we don't meddle in policy or different decision-making of the LAPD. So I encourage a no vote on this.
I wish it was that simple to just not say that this is politicized when it is 100% politicized. Right now, the only entities that have real say in how LAPD moves is the mayor and the mayor-appointed body, which is the Board of Police Commissioners. And some neighborhoods, policing is still like the 1990s. It might not be happening like that in all parts of the city, but I can point to it where it's happening in my district. And last year, when the federal immigration rates were at their highest, when we saw countless videos and pictures of LAPD standing and facing the crowd while ICE agents were picking up women up off their feet in downtown and throwing them into the back of vans. We saw them shooting less than lethals at press and had many conversations about it. We've been having conversations about police accountability forever in this space. But last year, for me, it was the most clearest when we submitted 22 motions to get LAPD to do something, anything other than look like they were enabling federal immigration enforcement, and the BPC gave us nothing. I organized meetings with council members and the BPC. We talked about the motions several times, and we still got nothing. And we need to make these changes. This change, number 22, doesn't even change the law. It brings accountability and clarity to existing law. We're not even changing the law, just bringing clarity to it. And if it wasn't for what I saw last year, I wouldn't be fighting so hard for it. And people might say, well, why didn't you go to the mayor with this? Why didn't you talk to the people about this? We tried, and we hit concrete wall after concrete wall. And that's why this change is so important. It doesn't even change the law. It just provides clarity for BPC and other entities to know that this body can make policy recommendations that are general. We're not even talking about individual cases. We're not even talking about staffing assignments, operational tactics. We're not talking about that. Though that would be, I understand, would be more problematic if we were trying to meddle in that. That's not what we're trying to do. I'm just trying to bring clarity to the law that exists that says as a body, we can draft policy for a department. We already handle all the liability costs, their budget, and to not be able to say, we want to see you give us a response at least for this policy recommendation, if we can't even get that, I think this is all bullshit. Because last year was incredibly difficult. And not to get a response from them, I don't know what else it's gonna take to get PPC to move. I really don't. This is simple. We're not changing the law, we're just writing clarifying language. So I would urge my colleagues, please vote yes. And I guarantee you that it will pass, because people out there want police accountability. They want it. They tell us every day when they're here, they tell us in the budget, we get calls, DMs, everything. It will pass. So colleagues, please, I urge you, just give the voters an opportunity to bring clarity to a law that already exists. Thank you.
Councilmember Price.
I couldn't be any more eloquent. Let me just say that I agree with the Councilwoman and the motion. I think is a start. It's not going to solve all the problems, but it is a start, and it shows that we're trying to be responsive, and so I totally support it.
Ms. Hernandez, totally understand your anger and frustration and what it's borne by. And I understand the feeling of there's non-responsiveness. I, too, have submitted multiple motions seeking the chief of police to come back and have a conversation with us. It's been tone deaf, for lack of a better word. I understand where this frustration and anger comes from. We've seen a lot of those things. But I will also say, we need to have accountability about how we manage and exercise and affect change utilizing the powers that we currently have. And that is in exercising through the budget in terms of helping to ensure, because for me, reform has always been a continuum. I've never looked at what we've achieved in terms of reform as being, we're done. Reform is a continuum. It's an exercise that we constantly do because there's a continued evolution in how we respond to the dynamics that we are presented with in each of our communities. However, I do have concerns with how this is currently presented. And what I'd like to see is the opportunity for us, and I know I did this both in my role on budget and also as public safety chair, was getting the report backs of the reforms and the changes that we wanted to see pending before allowing release of funds. There are tools that we have in our tool belt right now to help achieve some of the very things that you want to do. And I understand your anger and frustration. We also serve as a role to confirm each one of those commissioners, and we also have the role in confirming the chief of police. And so if we want to have these conversations and we want to do, let's go. But I believe we do have the tools and the authority right now to help effectuate that change. And I understand, but I'm also trying to strike the proper balance of power in the roles that we have with how it's addressed in the charter.
Thank you, and I hear you, and in a perfect world, it would work like that. But in this world, this body voted to give $1 billion in raises to LAPD even when we knew we were gonna be broke, and we did that. This body reduced police hiring, and what happened? They went around us and they hired anyways. We do have mechanisms, and they go around us or they ignore us. This is not changing the law on 22. It's just bringing clarity to the law so that everybody knows, including BPC, that we can author policy. That's it. That's from my understanding. If the city attorney wants to come up and say differently, but it's my understanding that that is the law, and we just need clarity on it. We need to continue to have these conversations. But in this body, in this the political will does not exist for what you're saying. And why am I saying that? Because we keep running into walls when we have tried. So I wish it was like what you're saying, but it's not. I'm just trying to give the voters an opportunity to make the language clear. It's not changing the law. It's just bringing clarity to the law that already exists for number 22. I'm not talking about the others. I'm just saying 22.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the conversation that we're having, and this is exactly why I'm very supportive of this. This is one of my top priorities of all the things that are being discussed in the Charter Reform Commission. And when you talk to folks out there that work in the legal world, they will tell you that City Council does have the ability to do policy. That's the legal opinion of many people. That's what I believe. That's what other council members here believe. That is what I believe is true, and many people believe is true. However, we've been told by different entities that say, yes, we do have. The city attorney says, no, you don't have it. Other folks say you do have it. And so we have to clarify that. We have to clarify that. That's it. And so I want to thank Councilmember McCosker for working with my team and I on this language to try to bring clarity to the law. And I believe that clarity is needed. I know, Councilwoman Rodriguez, I appreciate your passion, but I remember you asking for reports on overtime and getting a 3-page document that didn't have all the information. Always pulling teeth in public safety. We see our liabilities ballooning, yet we can't have changes over how we can try to lower those liabilities. Or the overtime of LAPD is $200 million a year, yet we don't have a say over how that overtime is authorized or not. We keep hitting these walls. And what ends up happening? We end up paying for it in different ways. And I just want to be clear that this reform does not put the city council in charge of individual investigations, and it does not put the city council in charge of hiring, firing, or discipline. It simply clarifies that elected officials like us may establish general policy for the department they're expected to fund, oversee, and answer for. That is consistent with what decades of reform we've been moving to. That's accountability, transparency, and public safety policy that is responsive to the people of Los Angeles. And I want to sort of echo the clarion call from Councilmember Hernandez. Of all the things I mentioned, the ballooning liabilities, unable to change anything, how LAPD has interacted with First Amendment protesters, the pretextual stops that happen every single day in our Black and brown communities. But all those should already say, you know what, this body should be able to do something about those things. Those are urgent things that our families and members deal with every single day. But the one for me that broke the camel's back was when the federal government came in here and I, as a council member, was driving around my district telling street vendors, hey, you have the right to remain silent, you have to do anything. And what did I see? LAPD driving around like nothing had happened. You mean to tell me they couldn't get on their bullhorn and tell the public, hey, ICE is in the area, you have the right to remain silent, you have the right not to sign any document? You mean to tell me that we couldn't even do that? They were showing up to unmarked vehicles, mostly men with masks, unidentified, and we did nothing? I'm sorry, but that's pathetic. And Councilmember Hernandez is correct. We had the meetings with then the president of the commission, urging him to do something, not a peep. We had more meetings, not a peep. And then guess what happened? He left. He was gone. And we're having to all over again try to convince the Board of Police Commissioner to do something. And a year has passed by and not a thing has happened. And how can all of us here, who say we believe in all the right things and immigrants and all these other stuff, and you're going to sit here and say, this remains the status quo? That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable for this body to do. And so all we're saying is, let's stop allowing this charter to be interpreted by an individual, by the city attorney one way, and maybe the future city attorney another way. Let's stop that game. And let's put the decision-making power, the accountability, in the people who are elected to represent them. That's us. Put it in our power. Make it clear. And so I don't understand the concerns, but this is at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads at a city. And I appreciate the history lessons of the 80s and 90s. You know what? I lived through it. As a young brown man in South Central, I lived it. And many of us still live it. But we are living in 2026, and we haven't done anything for our people in the last year and a half, even since the George Floyd uprising. So let's do something about it. Let's clarify the charter. Let's give this body the power so when things like this happen, we can actually do something and not leave it to some legal interpretation. Thank you so much. And I urge a aye vote.
Mr. Lee.
I just want to make a clarification because it's been said over and over again that this does not change law. This does change the charter. Okay, this is not a clarifying. This changes the charter of fundamentally taking away the citizens' oversight and putting it in the hands of the politicians. So just everyone, I'm sure you've made your decision on how to vote, but I don't want you to be misled that this does not change the law, because it absolutely does.
What it would do is give the city council the power to set policy going forward in the future that would then bind the LAPD to specific policy actions. So there is no immediate change to anything that would be done unless council takes further action to implement a new policy by ordinance.
Extremely nervous the more authority this council asserts over the operations of the police department. And I'll be a no on this and yes on others, but again, not because I think anything that has been raised today is not valid, not pertinent. But this is my life experience. I remember Mayor Bradley trying to get the police department to behave, and it was fruitless. Like it meant nothing, because when they were in so-and-so's district, that's how they operated. And then when they were in a district, which I lived in a district that never had the support of either the chief or the police union. And the police department treated us that way. And there wasn't really any recourse that you had at that time, or at least that appeared to be the case. And so, again, I will be a no on this. Councilmember Hernandez urges aye vote. Public Safety Chairperson Lee urges a no vote. Let's open the roll on this item. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 4 noes.
All right, let's open the roll.
So
Close
what
the
the
roll.
council is voting on now is motion McCosker Rodriguez to request the report from the city attorney, and motion McCosker Soto Martinez to refer the entire matter 23 to the ad hoc committee.
All right, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote. All right, what's next? Thank you, Councilmember Soto Martinez and Councilmember Rodriguez. I would love, Madam CLA, if you could comment on this, how far away we are. I agree with everything that Councilmember Rodriguez said about the difficulties, the cost, and the things that we don't know. I want to caveat, I believe that Councilmember Rodriguez believes this too. We're not saying it's too expensive to give someone the right to vote. We're not saying that. We're just saying we don't know, right? And so I think that's really what we're trying to get at. And I feel really strongly about this one, and I want to make sure we get it right. It's, when I drive to the gym in the morning, I see women on the bus stop getting on the bus to go across town to take care of someone else's child who just got here to make a movie or do something in the entertainment industry, which we're bending over backwards to give them tax breaks, and their right to vote is unquestioned by anybody. But this person who's doing that very critical work, somehow we can't figure out how to extend to them the franchise to vote on the very system that gets them back and forth to work, if nothing else, and controls their housing and the quality of life for their family and their children. And so, again, I think there are few more sacred things than the sanctity of participation in our democracy. I believe our democracy is illegitimate as long as you can get taxed here, you can work here, you can go to war here, you can have a business here, but you can't vote. And our people here that can't vote, we can't count on the Tea Party to show up and defend them for taxation without representation. And so this council has to step into that space.
And to those who support, this voting eligibility, I say, you know what? Take it to the voters. Let them vote on it, rather than creating a mechanism that delegates that authority to this city council. The amendment before us today would ask voters to grant this council ongoing authority to expand voting eligibility by ordinance following future redistricting cycles. The practical effect is that council members would be empowered to make significant changes to election laws, including voting eligibility, the use of separate ballots, vote counting processes. Election laws are different from ordinary policy decisions. They establish the rules under which elected officials are chosen and held accountable. And because of that, changes to voting eligibility should be approached with the utmost public trust and legitimacy. Election laws should never be viewed through the lens of who benefits politically or who may be disadvantaged politically. Yet when elected officials are granted that authority to alter voting eligibility by ordinance, those decisions will inevitably be viewed by some as benefiting allies or harming opponents, even if that was not the actual intent. The perception alone can undermine public confidence in our elections. Whatever one's view on expanding voting eligibility may be, this ultimately comes down to who should have the authority to make our election laws. Should major changes to voting eligibility be decided by the voters who actually participate in the elections, or by the council members who run those elections? I believe major changes to voting eligibility should continue to be decided directly by the voters through our charter amendments. If a future council wants to expand eligibility, that proposal could be presented to the voters to codify in the charter rather than implemented through ordinance authority delegated to the very elected officials who run those elections. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
I'll start off by saying I appreciate Councilmember Soto Martinez being brave to get this conversation started. I know it's not new, but it feels new in this space. I'm still really upset with everything that happened with parks. I think our non-citizens also deserve good parks. But anyways, besides the point. So I'm going to support this because I think our voters should let us know whether we should or shouldn't do this. But I will also just want to put it on the record that I do fear two things. Well, I'm going to make 3 points. One, when it comes to school board races, I've always believed that parents should be able to vote for school board elections regardless of their legal status. Because when I was on the ballot for school board myself once upon a time, I had plenty of voters that said, well, I don't care about school board because it doesn't affect me. So if you already have voters that say, I don't care for the school board race because it doesn't impact me, well, then more reason to give the parents that are impacted, the ability to get involved. But I will say that I am very nervous that this could potentially create disincentives to become legal citizens. And I am also going to say that I fear that we're going to have lists and data that can be used by entities that want to use it for harm. So again, let's see what the voters tell us. But these are, I just do think we are in a time in history where we need more information. So just want to put that out there for the record.
Councilmember Rodriguez, and then we got to vote.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Padilla, because that's one of my concerns is given the dynamics that we have right now is what we're creating is a list of individuals that could then just be the target by another potential federal administration. But I also have apprehension, and I understand taking the opportunity with this charter reform process, but I have apprehension of making false promises that give the suggestion that we're able to advance something without even further vetting the ability to implement this. And so we're making a false promise. And for that, I have real concerns and reservations because, frankly, so many in our community have already been exposed to all the betrayed trust. And I don't want to pretend that people are going to take away from this, that this is going to be available to them, and it's not because it's not been baked out.
Still needs work.
So that's my concern, that, it's important for us to understand whether or not this is even really feasible and able to advance, given all the outstanding questions that we have before we make this move. And I totally agree, and but I want to make sure that we have that information first before we enshrine this in the charter and give people the false impression that this is something that's moving forward because we have zero, information and data to answer all of those outstanding questions. And for that, I have apprehension. I cannot support this amendment, and I just want to make sure that if we're doing it, we've got the plan to go forward and execute this. And that's what my concern is with this at this time.
Let's open the roll on this item, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 5 noes.
That motion fails. So now before the council is the McCosker-Hutt motion to refer the matter to. Next is recommendation 102, called special by Councilmember Padilla.
Councilmember Padilla?
Congratulations, Councilmember Mr. McCosker, on doing such a great job on getting what you so strongly feel passionate about for the ports. I do believe that the impacts of the port does stretch all the way over to my district, right, given the amount of trucking and the jobs and whatnot. But I agree that your community should see the immediate benefits. And I bring this up as a preamble for my item because I hope that the same way that this council just supported you for the ports, I hope that you guys can see the same thing in terms of the impacts that should be deserved for myself and Councilwoman Tracy Park for this one.
And Councilmember Harris Dawson.
And Harris Dawson, yes. So I was shocked when I saw that the Rules Committee sent this as a note and file. I support this one because I think it's time to expand the local representation on the Board of Airport Commissioners. This proposal resets on a fundamental principle of equity. The communities most impacted by airport operations at both LAX and Van Nuys deserve a meaningful seat at the table. For the record, the City of Los Angeles last amended its charters to require localized geographic representation on this board during the 1999 charter reform process, which took effect on July 1st of 2000. That milestone reform was part of a visionary push to decentralize civic influence, which also established our citywide system of neighborhood councils. But that amendment took place, as mentioned, close to 26 years ago. A quarter of a century later, it no longer meets the reality, scale, or urgent need for our communities today. Under current charter section 11, parentheses A, parentheses 2, and 630, the rules require only one solitary representative for the entire LAX area and only one for the entire Van Nuys area. Think about it. The city charter continues to require just a single representative to speak for the more than 160,000 residents living in the footprint of the Van Nuys Airport, a population density and impacted laid bare in the June 2023 UCLA Health Impact Assessment Report. The ground has shifted beneath our feet. Today, Van Nuys Airport serves as one of the world's largest general aviation airfields for private jets and charter flights. The environmental impacts, noise and traffic, and land use impacts are felt acutely both at the runway level and along southern departure paths. As we look to the future and seek to strengthen both our communities and our city's economy, this motion modernizes our governance. It allows the city to define specific sub-areas to ensure we capture the voices of those impacted in Van Nuys and Westchester, for example. Now, my demands for greater representation have been met. I know that there's folks that have concerns. I've heard comments alluding to supposed unavailability of qualified applicants in the communities that Councilwoman Park and I represent. Are you kidding me? How dare you say that about my constituents, folks? I respectfully but firmly disagree with those statements. Quite frankly, I find them insulting to everyone that I serve, and you should find that insulting as well. And also, let me present a more accurate perspective. Our communities are home to a deep pool of highly capable, deeply invested professionals who are ready, willing, and fully qualified to serve. To suggest otherwise completely overlooks the immense talent, intellect, and expertise in the very neighborhoods most impacted by these decisions. True effective governance relies on integrating this local expertise directly into the city leadership. So colleagues, I ask that you look past these groundless doubts and recognize the capability of our residents and understand a simple truth. Our neighbors deserve to be heard. Furthermore, let me be absolutely clear about what this motion does and does not do. The Board of Airport Commissioners and LAWA do not determine flight paths. I heard people were also wondering, well, what about those who are impacted by the flight path? That authority rests solely with the Federal Aviation Administration. This motion is not an attempt to rewrite FAA flight paths. What this motion does do is initiate a necessary city charter amendment to ensure that the people who live the closest to our airports, who observe the daily impacts outside their windows to drive the benefits of the airport operations, should have an institutionalized voice in the conversations and decisions that affect their backyard, their schools, and their families. So, throughout this process, I've repeatedly emphasized accountability, civic engagement, and local empowerment. This motion directly delivers on every single one of those shared values. So at its core, this is a straightforward question of fair representation. And I hope that the same deference that you gave to the ports and the community of the ports, that you could do the same for the folks that are impacted by the airport, which is myself and Council District 11. Thank you. I ask for your A vote.
That to me is the thing that needs to go to the charter, that the area that includes local also includes that area. I mean, when my neighbors go to the airport commission, they're talking to people who've literally never been to their neighborhood. Like nowhere close.
But I want to clarify it can. We're not here, what we're trying to do is just solidify that the seats themselves are community-based. But by ordinance, we can still incorporate the flight path. But what we're just trying to make sure is that you stop having a commission that sometimes is just filled with folks that are gonna rubber stamp everything and anything that doesn't even consider things such as impacts, including the flight path. We can still address flight path at the ordinance, but what we're trying to do is solidify that these seats are more community-driven, neighborhood-based driven, as opposed to a bunch of business folks, which has been the way it is, thus how it's been so far. We want to make sure that at least these 5 seats are related to folks that are impacted, not just stakeholders in the industry business side of things.
Right. No,
And that's what I want you guys to understand. This is about making those 5 seats more community-driven. But flight path is not something that we cannot continue to discuss via ordinance.
Yeah, and I am as concerned about that being kicked to ordinance as you are concerned about the representation being kicked to ordinance. That's all I'm trying to register. Mr. McCosker. All right, and the content of the amending motion of Padilla Hut is what? Huh? Padilla Park, not Padilla Hut. Okay. Padilla Park. Do you have something in front of you that says Padilla Hut?
No, sir. The amending motion 67A Padilla Park is to request the city attorney with the assistance of the CLA to prepare and present the documents necessary to place before the voters on November 2026 ballot a measure that would amend section 630 of the city charter to require that at least 3 members of the Board of Airport Commissioners shall reside within the area surrounding LAX, and at least 2 members of the Board of Airport Commissioners shall reside within the area surrounding Van Nuys Airport, as these areas are defined by ordinance, and to authorize the City Council by ordinance to further define sub-areas within such areas and establish commissioner residency distribution requirements among those sub-areas.
Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
8 ayes, 4 noes.
Like Prince, we party like it's 1999, but thank you for your guidance. I feel like we made a lot of progress today, touched on subjects that are uncomfortable, made us stretch a little bit, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Councilwoman Hutton. Thank you to all the members who
Mr.
hung
President,
tight.
if I may.
And this, I think, is probably the longest meeting that we've had. Other announcements, members?
Within today's regular meeting.
Without objection. And before we close, I appreciate the recognition from Councilman Rahat. I want us to all give a big recognition to our CLA's office and our CAO's office. They got this work done during budget. Budget was going on concurrently, and a host of other policy issues, and they stepped to the plate and got us to where we are today. So we're very grateful to that work.